I tell people my sister moved out west. You're a science teacher. Your husband, he renovates houses. You're thinking about moving, but you're gonna wait until the interest rates go down.
That's not my story. Before I was an Avenger, I made mistakes. And a lot of enemies.
His call sign's Taskmaster. He controls the Red Room. They're manipulated, fully conscious, but no choices.
I should have come back for you. How many others are there?
Enough.
We have to go back to where it all started. So they never do that to anyone again.
We're a family. We fight with you.
You won't win.
I've always found it best not to look into the past.
Okay, you got a plan, or shall I just stay duck and cover?
My plan was to drive us away.
Well, your plan sucks.
At some point, we all have to choose between what the world wants you to be and who you are. I made my choice. I'm done running. Here's what's gonna happen.
Natasha, don't slouch.
I'm not slouching.
You're going to get a back hunch.
Listen to your mother.
Oh my God, this.
Up.
All
Listen.
right, enough. All of you.
I didn't say anything. That's not fair.
How's it going, everybody? It's Warren, and this morning we got a new final trailer for the Black Widow movie coming out in May. And we actually got a ton of new scenes and a ton of new information about the movie, which is great because, again, this is the final trailer. There's a ton to break down and just a ton of Easter eggs, so let's dive into it. If you're new, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all things relating to the MCU and Black Widow, and to enter my giveaway for a chance to win an Xbox One or a PS4, and I'm picking a winner at 550,000 subscribers. So, the trailer starts off with Black Widow and Yelena Belova meeting up after a long time. And she starts off by telling Natasha what she tells other people when they ask about her sister. Now, it seems like they may be doing a little bit of retconning in this movie, because Natasha does seem very, very close to her so-called family in this trailer. Even at the end, Melina corrects her posture and Red Guardian says, "Listen to your mother." So they're a lot closer and more of a family than we anticipated them being. So that means they either are biologically related somehow, or they're just a lot closer than they made them out to be. So after Melina gets done talking about the fake story that she's made up about Natasha to explain where she is, we see a ton of black vehicles pulling up, SUVs. They look like they're probably CIA or belong to some type of government association. We see a ton of different military people step out of all of these cars and form around somebody, most likely Black Widow. And what this most likely is going to be is, after the Sokovia Accords, Thunderbolt Ross is going to be looking for all of the ones who got away and didn't sign the Accords. And they're most likely going to be in the background of the entire movie. We see a shot of Thunderbolt Ross here, actually. Clearly, he is looking for Natasha and perhaps something else, which we'll dive into a little bit later on in the video. But no doubt he is looking for her because she decided to help Captain America and Bucky get away. And we know that from the events of Civil War to the events of Avengers Infinity War, she was on the run the entire time. So Natasha flees away, goes back home to Yelena Belova's house, and says, "Before I was an Avenger, I made a lot of enemies." And this is where we are truly introduced to Taskmaster and find out what his involvement in the story is. And even though Natasha says that she's made some enemies in the past, Taskmaster is a new enemy, and we can tell because Yelena is having to explain who he is to Natasha. She says his call sign is Taskmaster. He controls the Red Room. Now, of course, the Red Room is where they train the Black Widows, including Natasha and Yelena. And Yelena goes on to say that the Black Widows in the program are being manipulated. They are fully conscious but are being controlled. And this is going to be the primary reason that Natasha and Yelena are going to want to stop the Red Room, so they can save all these young girls and all future girls that may be pulled into the Black Widow program from being controlled and used as weapons as they were as children. Now this actually ties into a Falcon and the Winter Soldier plot detail that we got not too long ago. And the plot detail was that the new Captain America US agent John Walker is given a super soldier serum, but the serum actually ends up controlling him. This is a major detail because we saw in the other Black Widow footage that we got, she was holding those red vials, which is most likely a super soldier serum. And this is going to be the serum they use to enhance them, but at the same time, we've learned that it also controls them. So that pretty much explains that mystery vial that we were talking about. And this is probably what Thunderbolt Ross is trying to get his hands on as well. Since the Incredible Hulk, we know that Thunderbolt Ross has been trying to experiment with super soldiers and trying to get his hands on a serum. We've also heard that the Thunderbolts and Red Hulk are going to be introduced in the MCU relatively soon. And since we see Thunderbolt Ross in this trailer, I would say that he most likely gets his hands on one of these serums, and that's what's eventually going to turn him into the Red Hulk. We see a scene with Yelena on the table. It looks like she's about to get something injected into her. This is most likely a mind control serum as well. So there could be a potential plot twist at the end that Yelena is actually being mind controlled. Not that she's bad, but she could be on a mission because she is being controlled. So Natasha says we have to go back to where it all started so they can never do that to anybody again. And again, that's referring to the children and the women that are in the Black Widow program. So she goes back and we can tell that Taskmaster just sends everybody against her. And Natasha asks her sister, how many others are there? And Yelena answers with, enough. So it looks like Taskmaster is going to send the whole entire Red Room against Natasha to try and stop her. Then we see Alexei Shostakov, aka Red Guardian, breaking out of prison, and the family gets back together. We see him next to Melina and Yelena, and he says, we're family, we fight together. And he's fully dressed out in his Red Guardian outfit. And then the next scene is him taking on Taskmaster, and we see a lot here. Now, if we go back to the beginning of the trailer, we can see Taskmaster looking at footage of Black Widow fighting. This is what Taskmaster does. His skill is that he can manipulate anybody's fighting technique just by watching them. So he can mimic not only Black Widow's fighting style, but any other Avenger that he might have seen, and we see that in this trailer. In the beginning, when he's holding the shield, he's clearly mimicking Captain America's fighting style. We then see him fight Red Guardian, and he pulls out claws in his fingertips just like Black Panther, identical to his. And while he's fighting Red Guardian, he Spider-Man kicks him, does a backflip, and lands just like Natasha would land. So it's been revealed, and we can clearly tell that Taskmaster knows how Natasha fights because he's been studying footage of her. And since he's been studying footage of her, he's definitely looked at footage of all of the other Avengers fighting styles as well, and now he can fight just like them. So it's almost like Natasha is going to be taking on all of her other fellow Avengers, their fighting styles at least, in this movie, including Hawkeye. There's a scene where Natasha and Yelena are trying to get away. Natasha seems to be driving pretty poorly as Yelena tells her that her plan sucks, but then we see Taskmaster's tank. A huge armored vehicle shows up, and we see Taskmaster pop out of the top of it with a bow and arrow in hand, just like Hawkeye. So again, it's kind of like she's fighting her friends, all of the Avengers that she's fought alongside with over the years. And that's kind of going to be the point of Taskmaster being this villain. We've heard Natasha say in each one of the trailers and TV spots that we've gotten so far for this movie that she was an Avenger. She went off and she got a new family. And in this movie, she's going to have to team up with her old family to take on Taskmaster, who fights like all of the Avengers. Now, there is one key scene here at the end of the trailer that we have to talk about because it is important. Alexei in full Red Guardian uniform, which of course is the Russian version of their Captain America. He kicks up Taskmaster's shield just like Steve Rogers does, and he throws it basically through the window of a helicarrier that Taskmaster is trying to get in. And in this scene, if we slow it down, we can clearly tell that Melina is the person who is piloting this helicarrier. And this is important because it was widely believed that Melina is Taskmaster, that she is the one that is actually in charge of the Red Room. And this seems to be the first scene that we can clearly tell that Taskmaster and Melina are in one scene together. So although it is still possible, because in the comics there are multiple versions of Taskmaster, it doesn't seem likely that Melina is Taskmaster. We end this with an awesome scene between Natasha and Taskmaster fighting where he pulls out a sword, and he kind of does this in a way like Natasha pulls out one of her batons. So again, she's going to be fighting Taskmaster, and he's going to have a lot of different fighting styles, but he's going to have her fighting style. So this movie is going to have a ton of action, a lot of hand-to-hand combat, a lot of shooting, and overall looks absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait for it to come out in May. What do you think about this trailer? Let me know in the comments down below. And let me know, who do you think Taskmaster is? Drop your answer down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe with notifications turned on to stay up to date on all things relating to Black Widow and the MCU. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.